The ground shook beneath their feet as Pharaoh's army drew near. Fear spread like wildfire through the crowd. But Moses stood firm, his eyes on the horizon. "Do not be afraid," he called out, his voice steady. "The Lord will fight for you." Moses, once a shepherd in the wilderness, now led a nation of thousands. The man who had trembled before Pharaoh now walked with purpose, but beneath his calm demeanor, he felt the weight of responsibility. The journey had been long and the people's faith fragile, but God had never failed him. The Israelites camped by the Red Sea. Their only view ahead was an endless stretch of water. Behind them, a dust cloud signaled the rapid approach of Egyptian chariots. Mothers clutched their children and men exchanged fearful glances. "Why did you bring us here, Moses?" someone shouted. "Were there no graves in Egypt?" Moses raised his staff, silencing the murmurs. He remembered God's promises, the plagues, the lamb's blood that shielded them during the final night, and the bold command to go free. With a deep breath, he turned toward the sea. Moses felt a knot in his chest as fear swept through the crowd. He didn't have a battle plan or weapons to fend off Pharaoh's army. He had only one thing, God's word. He raised his voice above the chaos. "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again." Moses lifted his staff as God commanded. The wind began to howl, louder and stronger. The sea churned violently. Then something impossible happened. The water began to part. Walls of water rose on either side, forming a dry path through the heart of the sea. Gasps of awe and disbelief filled the air. Moses didn't pause to marvel. He turned to his people. "Walk forward," he commanded. The first few steps were hesitant, then faster, as confidence built. They hurried forward, feeling the seabed firm beneath their feet. The roar of the waters around them reminded them of the peril, but also of the miraculous safety provided by God. The wind whipped at their clothes and faces. Children held tight to their parents' hands as they hurried along the dry ground. The sound of the water thundering high above sent shivers down their spines. They could still hear the army behind them, the chariots rumbling closer. But the people pressed on, step after step, until every last Israelite had reached the far shore. Then Moses lowered his staff. As Pharaoh's army surged into the path after them, the walls of water began to tremble. The dry path darkened as the sea seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a mighty crash, the waters thundered back into place. Chariots and horses were engulfed, swallowed by the returning waves. The Israelites watched in stunned silence. The once terrifying sea was calm again, but their enemies were gone. A cheer erupted, filling the air with shouts of victory. Moses stood among them, looking to the heavens. It was not by their might, but by God's hand that they were saved. "The Lord is my strength and my song, he has become my salvation," the people sang. This story of deliverance teaches us that even when it feels like we're trapped between impossible odds, God can make a way through. Trusting in him doesn't always eliminate the struggle, but it always leads to freedom. As the sun rose over the distant hills, the people began their journey anew. The waters had returned, but the path of freedom was etched forever in their hearts. With faith as their guide and Moses as their leader, they walked forward into a promise of a new life.